Hello, I'm Brandon Schmoll. I'm a governing board member with Tempe Union High School District. This presentation is for those interested in why schools spend money the way they do, for those who have questions about how overrides, bonds, and Prop 123 money might be spent, or are looking to gain a better understanding of how schools are required to spend money. Our schools, like most schools, receive funds from various sources such as assessed property taxes, bonds we sell, the state of Arizona, the federal government, and various grants and donations. Most of the money received comes from taxes levied on local property owners. You might think that once we have the money, we can spend it however we see fit, but that can't be further from the truth. To help simplify why we can't, I have these containers that represent different types of money we have. The first and the smallest of the three is what we call the oil bucket. This bucket of money contains funds that we get from federal and state programs and can be spent on things like career and technical education, which is also known as JTED funding. This is allocated by the state. Title I funds, this is federal money we receive to assist students who are at risk of failing. And we also get federal funding for our student lunch programs, and this would go into that bucket as well. And something to note, all of this money must be used for a specific purpose that it's intended for. The second bucket we have is the SAM bucket, which is our capital funds. Funding from this bucket comes from property taxes. The easy way to remember if it's capital expense is if what we buy is expected to last more than 1 year. Some of the expenses that go into this bucket are things like school construction, so when we build new schools, when we've got to go out and buy more school buses, all the textbooks that we have to buy for students, and some of the computers and technology that we buy, such as our new voice over IP phones that we just had installed. When districts go out for capital overrides, they're essentially saying, hey voters, this bucket's gotten too small to fit all these items. We're going to either have to leave some of these items out, or we need more capital dollars to spend. Or in our example, we need a bigger bucket. The third bucket, also known as the water bucket, is the Maintenance and Operations Fund. Now this bucket we use for convenience, but really it should be about 11 times bigger. So if you could just imagine a kiddie pool, that's probably what it would look like. Funding for this bucket comes from property taxes and is based on the average daily membership on the 100th day, which is the official way to refer to the number of students who actually attend our schools in the first half of the year. Some of the things that go into this bucket are things like salaries for your teachers, custodians, administrators, and other staff. Also, we got to pay for athletics, maintenance to the buildings, things like electricity, and other school supplies. So now you might be thinking, well, hey, I want to increase pay for teachers, so why not take some of that oil bucket money that we get from the federal government or the state and put it into the water bucket so that we can increase teacher pay? Well, when we do that, you can see that we've got the oil here and the water here, and we try and mix it together. It looks like it might mix, but you'll quickly see that it'll separate with the oil on top and the water on the bottom, illustrating why we can't mix the two together, because they physically won't mix, and those funds can't be used for that purpose. So that didn't work, but we still want to increase teacher pay. So why not, another good idea, let's try using the sand bucket and pour that into the water bucket and see if we can use those funds. Well, when we use those funds, as you can see in this example right here, the sand and the water have mixed, and the water is quite murky and muddy. And that just illustrates that when you do that and you use funds from the sand bucket or the capital bucket for maintenance and operations purposes, it can kind of be difficult to clean up that financial mess created. So generally when schools look to increase funding to one area, like teacher pay, if no additional money is allocated by the state or federal government, schools then have to decrease funding in something else within that specific bucket. We hope we were able to take this complex subject and make it a little easier to understand. We appreciate your time and hope you'll share this video with others.